All right, welcome everyone to measurement and a nod to direct marketing and PR. So let's look first at metrics overview. Some of the metrics we will want to look at here in advertising is engagement, reach, frequency, sentiment analysis and emotional response. Think Keller's customer-based brand equity theory here, memory, perception, and attitude. First to engagement. Engagement at its most basic and easiest to measure form is the three simple things you can look at on social media: likes, comments, and shares. Engagement, though, should be more advanced and consider a sentiment analysis, the so-called intelligent social, as you can see in the image opposite. Short-term and long-term are important here too. The longer, the better, because it more accurately tracks the effectiveness of a campaign on brand effects over a long period of time. With reach is the percentage of your target market your media has reached. Although contextual, anything north of 30% is considered a very good figure, but usually achieved at significant cost and usually only on one creative item, such as a video ad. These figures are getting harder and harder to get, with attention being fought over by so many distractions. Think the week one comms model where we talked about noise in the background. Another important measure is frequency. Frequency is the number of times your content was seen by the target market. A figure of 3 to 4 for video content is ideal, as that is linked to the length of time required to put something into short-term memory, which then has a chance of influencing interest and information and possibly action by the consumer. A new measure of frequency, though, focused on social media, is impressions, which is the number of times your content was displayed before a consumer. Organic impressions, or impressions achieved by not paying for a post, are the key figure here, because it means that the consumer wanted to see your image rather than it was put in front of them because it was paid by a social media brand. Sentiment and emotion. Sentiment and emotion is becoming the new hot figure to use for effectiveness in IMC. Sentiment analysis involves a lot of hard stats, and emotional responses involves a lot of hard science and stats. So you need to do some advanced studies to learn how to measure these two. But most people don't, so they pay for people to do it for them, which can cost anything north of $50,000 a month or thereabouts for a decent data set with all the analysis done for you. A unique data set, though, can cost more, but if you have the right mind and talent, then it usually costs nothing because these people know what to do and how to do it for very little cost at all. The easiest and cheapest way we can do it, and possibly for you as well, for accessible, is emoticons on social media. But these can be misleading because people may do it for different reasons, motivations, so be careful. Memory. Ask yourself the following two questions. What's your favorite ad of all time? What's your earliest purchase? These are examples of how to do simple memory tests and what you can recall in a marketing sense. Memory is contextual to the individual too, as it is linked to what a person finds motivationally relevant. This is another reason why getting your target market right is important. If you don't, then no one is going to find you relevant. Perception and attitude. Perception and attitude are simply those things towards the advertisement or message and the brand. They are measured at the start of a campaign, then during, and of course after, usually on an ongoing basis. It helps to use the same people or consumers for your research, but this can be very difficult and costly and may not be the best path in the privacy age we're in currently. So perhaps one way to do perception attitude is to look at it broadly across the brand and measure that effect going forward. Other measurements. This is where you need to go back to your objectives because you set them so they should be measurable. Some others are very simple: sales or adoption of products, market share, brand value, and a concept called mind share, which I haven't put down there, but is one to consider as well. Okay, now on to direct marketing. What is it? Simply put, direct marketing is going directly to the target market. This means avoiding message and media intermediaries such as TV or radio. It is also an effective way of building a database, a la social and digital media, or even old school such as SMS. Thanks to telemarketers, some see this method as the most annoying of all the promotion methods. Let's face it, who wants to receive a phone call from a telemarketer? So why do we use it then? And we can see from this table, the list of advantages are quite big and the list of disadvantages quite small. And that's the reason why we use direct marketing. So have a look at these advantages here in detail, but also understand the disadvantages, although small in number, are quite impactful on consumers. So keep that in mind because, as I said before, no one likes to be annoyed by telemarketers. What's the design process? Similar to most processes in integrated marketing communications, objectives are set off primary IMC objectives. So in other words, the trickle-down effect. Research. You need to do your research into your market and the methods which are currently popular in the context of this method. Keep simplicity messaging in mind and remember that you're trying to capture attention and relevance with the consumer. Be authentic and clear. Honor all your deals you make, regardless. And number 5, listen and learn from feedback, because that way it informs this process when you start it again the next time. Methods. Brand acts first in all methods, so defined as push and not pull. So in other words, why I say the brand acts first is that the company takes the first step here. So just be careful with this because some people will see this as being a bad thing. Methods are designed to target the market directly, bypassing other ways which may rely on the consumer acting first or demand-driven. You might say this method is a hangover from the days when sales was more important than marketing, but of course those days have long gone, right? Methods on social media. Social media is the ideal delivery system now for direct marketing. It also provides a lot more data on what consumers respond to thanks to what is shared with marketers. And you can see that from the image to the right-hand side of the screen, all the stats we have there on response rates when it comes to direct mail. But when considering the effectiveness of direct mail itself, keep in mind, as I said at the very outset of this section, that most people hate this as a method. So how people respond is very, very low in terms of actual behavior change or interest in the marketing communications. You can see on that right-hand side figure, the response rate for direct mail only averages around 5%. 5%, that's very low. And for some other methods there, you can see it's even lower. So keep that in mind as you go through this method. Now on to public relations. So what is public relations? Public relations is the deliberate, planned and sustained effort to establish mutual understanding between organisations and its publics. The source there is the Public Relations Institute of Australia. You can click on the link in the slides and it'll take you to the website. The image on the right-hand side makes it clear the distinction between marketing and public relations. So why do it? Well, PR usually costs very little, but the results from it can be quite big, and that's the main reason we do it. It is also a critical part of a stakeholder-based policy, as COVID is showing with those organisations with strong PR are more likely to get government support than those without it. It is also used as a brand can have tight control over a message and the content of that message. And the design process, well, we saw an image on the previous slide on the right-hand side, which was one design process. The one below from the Public Relations Institute of Australia looks at a 5-step approach: inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, and impact. Another common approach in this area is RACE: research, activities, communications, and evaluation. Whatever process you use, just make sure you use one, because it means that you're planning for an activity to happen and you can therefore measure its effectiveness. Think the SMART objectives. The methods used in public relations can vary. It can range from use of traditional media, such as press conferences, to new media, such as Facebook Live, vidcasts, social media, blogs, LinkedIn, and websites. A skilled PR person also needs to have sharp communication skills, along with a good knowledge of marketing and the ability to make content, such as videos, in minutes and not hours. In terms of evaluation, again, the Public Relations Institute of Australia provides a nice measurement and evaluation model of your public relations activities. It's a good one to look at. Make sure you go to the website to check it out. Finally, on some metrics and measurement, again, the PRIA provides a good list of metrics and milestones that can apply to each step of the process you undertake in public relations. Again, it's a really thorough list, and it's something you should go through to make sure that you've covered all your bases in your campaign if you're considering not just public relations, but any other method of marketing communications. Okay, now on to sponsorship. What is it? Sponsorship is the co-creation of value between two parties where one actor offers value, usually money, in return for value, usually exposure, but also can be for liking a relationship with other stakeholders over a defined period of time. That's my definition. The most common form of sponsorship is where a brand offers money to associate their name with a sponsored organisation. This is usually in sports, arts, and entertainment. It can also include offers of other types of assistance and is spread to many non-profit organisations, from politics, the environment, education, to even your local community grassroots group. What PricewaterhouseCoopers says though about sponsorship is as follows. In other words, it's all positive. Personalised content is king. Top content you can see there happening, being shared with different things. The future growth. The top 10 sports by growth. Notice here that esports is very high on that list. In fact, it's number one. And you can see the threats to the industry itself. But expect these trends to continue even post-coronavirus, because sponsorship is an effective way of doing an IMC campaign. So why use it? Well, as I just said, it's very effective, but the reasons for its effectiveness is because it's important in developing and maintaining a relationship between consumers and brand. Sometimes that's important in a B2B context, which we haven't really talked about in this course. We're more focused on B2C, but sponsorship you'll find is very important for B2B and B2G, which is business to government. So think about here how sponsorship has also worked in the B2C context. In a local way, we've seen Canberra Milk and the Canberra Raiders. It's been a long association with each benefiting from that relationship. Exposure of merchandise, such as jerseys for sporting groups, can also significantly increase the value for a brand, especially when that sporting club is a global brand such as Barcelona FC, Real Madrid, or Liverpool. For mine though, I'll always build Chelsea. Okay, the design process for sponsorship, very similar to what we've already covered in different parts of this course. So here we go. Number one, research. Of course, research your market, understand the market, know what your value offering should be. Number two, identify the value exchange. This is important in the age of partnership and not sponsorship. So in other words, what is the value being sought? Is it just exposure or is it more than that? Number three, activities. What can you offer? Signage, entertainment, events, engagement with the talent, media and content, merchandise. So this is important to understand what might motivate a potential client to enter into a sponsorship agreement with your brand. Finally is number four, evaluation and feedback. Methods and tactics. So I used that term before, partnerships, and partnerships are becoming a trend in this area, with many organisations now seeking to be partners rather than sponsors in helping an organisation achieve something. For example, a bank partnering with a non-profit to provide experts to work at the organisation for free, a la Westpac. Most common methods, though, still are sports, arts, and entertainment sponsorships, clothing logo placements, ground naming rights, which is also now extended to building naming rights, which you might see here in Canberra, events and entertainment, such as exclusive access or corporate boxes at different events, and content production strategy, such as via social media, video, advertising, sales promotions, direct marketing, and access to talent for corporate gigs. Evaluation of sponsorship. Similar to many other aspects of IMC, these can include the following: changes in brand awareness and liking, changes in sales of promoted brands, media coverage in number of items and platforms, social media metrics such as engagement and shares, feedback from customers who attended events, and sentiment analysis of brand and sponsorship agreements. This is where it really hurts the NRL, as we've seen with recent scandals. All right, that concludes this topic. I hope you've enjoyed it. Next we'll talk about ethics, and then after that we'll do one just on the final exam. All right, till next time, thanks for listening. Talk soon.